room, we're going to continue with the next topics on here. So the poll is active at the moment. We've got a couple of people that are actively going in and making changes. Please make sure that you get at least your top 3 options put in. After that, another 30 seconds to a minute more for anybody that wants to be voting. Just in case it changes. The first 2 are very close. Oh, everything's changing around again. So please do get in and get your voting done. Excellent. There we go. So please do get in and get your voting done on the Slido website. And then once this is finished, I'm just going to lock it in as what it was at the beginning, and we'll carry on from there. You don't have to sit at the back. You can come forward if you want. There's some seats off to the side if you wish a better view, but still off to the side. But yeah. So just going through the voting. So at the moment, we've got email security as the top voted one. This is going in quite broad, actually. So it goes in a little bit on general email security, such as email threats and phishing and that. But then we start going into a little bit more on the email server security to provide security for email transport SMTP, using things like SPF, DMARC, and DKIM, what they mean, how they work together. Next one, DNS from the client perspective. This is looking at not so much DNS on how to protect a DNS server, but what does DNS security look from the client perspective? You know, what does DNSSEC do for a client? What does the lookups do from a client? Where can DNS be interfered with, and how can we prevent that from the view of DNS resolution from a client device? And then, of course, DDoS attack prevention is pretty straightforward. This isn't a deep technical one, but it does go through and describe all the different ways of how DDoS attacks operate. And then we're looking at architectural differences on how we can do DDoS attack prevention. Cybersecurity basics, so that's, of course, going through technical definitions and understanding of different things like that as well. So it's looking like, unless anybody is jumping on as a large group of you at the moment, it's looking like we're going to start off with email security. That should probably take this whole session, and then we'll go into DNS. We're moving up security for services. Finish up your voting. Let's see what the finals are here. But yeah, we'll start off with email security, and then we'll move on to DNS security from client perspective. There might be a little bit of time after that for the next topics, depending upon if they change around again or not. But let's start off with email security. Just a bit of introduction about myself. For those that don't know me, my name is Jamie Gillespie. I'm originally from Canada, but living in Australia. So I've been in Australia for about 25 years now, but originally from Canada, which is why I do not sound Australian. Been holding on to the Canadian accent. My employment history, if we go back to college, I studied electronics engineering in Toronto, Canada. I then started a job at UUNet Canada, the internet provider. They don't exist anymore, but for any of you that have been doing networking for a long time, UUNet in the US and UUNet Canada existed. They were bought out by WorldCom and then MCI WorldCom, and then they had some poor financial decisions, and they got bought out by Verizon. So that's sort of the progression. When I worked there, it was called UUNet Canada still. It was a backbone tier 1 internet provider across Canada. I worked in the network control center for a while. I started up a bit of their web hosting division, and then I moved to their internal computer and internal network support role from there. Moved down to Australia in 2001. I then got a job at AUSCERT. AUSCERT is the Australian Computer Emergency Response Team. I was a security analyst there for approximately 7.5 years. From there, I moved down to Sydney, Australia when I got a job with Google. I was working in Google Sydney as security operations team as a security engineer. Worked there for about 5 years and then moved to Macquarie Telecom in their cloud services division as a security architect. So I was doing that for, again, about 4 years. Then I moved back up to Brisbane, Australia, and most recently I was working at APNIC. APNIC, most of you may know, is the IP address registry for the Asia Pacific region, and I was a senior security specialist at APNIC for about 8 years. I left APNIC middle of last year, and I'm about to start a brand new job, but it's outside of the research and education space. It's with the Australian government. And when I say I'm about to start it, literally next week, I start my brand new job. So I'm pretty excited for that. So basically, I have been doing cybersecurity as a dedicated role for about 26 years, with another 4 or 5 years of general IT before that, including network control center, network operations center work for a major ISP. So needless to say, I know a lot about security, and most of my time doing security has been as a generalist. I've specialized being a generalist. So when somebody says, "Oh, what do you know about security?" It's like, well, it's easier to say, "What don't I know about security?" I have worked in many areas and done a lot of work in cybersecurity. Probably the main thing that I don't do is secure coding. I am not a big programmer. I can write some scripts and stuff like that. But as far as secure code reviews and that side, that's probably my weakest subject. So yeah. So that's how I can present on any one of 12 different topics and have this ready to go for you. So email security was the first one that everybody had voted on. Let me just bring that up here. Boom, email security. Um, I gave you my introduction. Best way to get in contact with me if you wish to maintain contact is through LinkedIn. It's pretty much the only social media that I do use. You can scan that link, or you can just search for my name if you wish as well. My face is on there. I'm easy to find. Also, these slides, as noted here, are credit and with thanks to APNIC for the creation of these slides and for allowing them through Creative Commons. A lot of the training material that APNIC creates is publicly released under Creative Commons, as long as we don't charge money and as long as we give credit. So there's the credit. That said, while I am giving credit to APNIC, I was the one that actually created these slides. So credit to APNIC when I was employed at APNIC. Okay. So overview of the different areas that we're going to talk about for this training. We're going to start off with email threats in general. We're going to look at phishing and social engineering as a specific topic. We're going to look at email header analysis, not too deep, but we're going to touch on it a little bit. This is a skill that a lot of people haven't been taught in the modern years. And then we're going to look at best practices for email security from a server perspective. So email threats. One of the most common email threats that we have is, of course, phishing. Phishing is impacting everybody. I would be surprised if any of you haven't received a phishing email today. It's a play on words from the word fishing, where you're fishing for fish. You put out a lure and you're trying to capture a fish and take it out of the water, basically. If you want to go back into historical terms, a lot of, I'll call them original hackers. So not the hackers that are doing illegal, malicious things, but the hackers that were exploring. They did a lot of things with phone networks back in the 70s, 80s, and around there. And they called it phone phreaking. And phreaking had a PH because they were using phones, so everything had a PH at the beginning. So changing F to PH is a very common thing. So phishing with the PH at the beginning is actually hacker terminology with a callback to back in the 70s and 80s, when hackers were predominantly in North America were abusing the phone system to make free long distance phone calls. So there you go, history lesson for you. Phishing uses deceptive emails, messages, and websites to trick people into releasing sensitive information. This sensitive information can be a whole range of things, usually username, password, credit card numbers, getting you to buy things, or even to download and then turn phishing into a virus infection. Spoofing by changing the sender's address to appear to come from someone else is very commonly used in phishing attacks. It's not used all the time, but it is commonly used. And this is important because some of the best practices that we talk about later are going to be how can we prevent or try and block a lot of the criminals from using phishing of forged email addresses. So you actually see that some of the phishing messages that are coming out now, they're not actually forging the sender's address anymore because it's becoming difficult because some of these best practices that I'll talk about later. They will forge the sender's name. They'll make the name appear to be somebody that you trust, whether it be PayPal, eBay, or a particular person's name. And they'll do ways to try and include an email address in the name, but they're not actually forging the actual send address. Sometimes this is important because some of these phishing emails are requesting you to reply by email. So obviously you have to be able to have a legitimate from address to reply to from there. We'll look at phishing more in depth in the next session. So next common threat that we have is malware. As I said, some phishing can lead to this, but you can also just have straight up malware attached to email messages without any sort of phishing of lure to it. Here we're going to have viruses, ransomware. It's a common way that these will come into systems. Yeah. Next one, spam. Spam separate to phishing. Spam as UCE or unsolicited commercial email. It's very important to go back to the strict definition. A lot of people will take any email that they receive that they don't want and they'll call it as spam. So this might even be a mailing list that they are legitimately signed up to, but they'll report it as spam because they don't like it at that point in time. It's like, well, hang on. If you legitimately signed up to this list, it's not considered spam. To be spam, it should be unsolicited, completely unsolicited. You've never had business dealings with this organization, or you've unsubscribed and they should get you completely unsubscribed off their list. And it should be a commercial email as well. So phishing doesn't class as spam, phishing is phishing, and you'll see that in some of the reporting mechanisms for email clients that you can report a message separately as phishing or spam so that it's dealt with in different ways. Spam is not always malicious, but it can contain attachments or links that lead off to places, blurring the line a little bit. But remember, spam is usually unsolicited commercial email. Other email threats. These don't fall in the category of spam. They don't fall in the category of phishing, but they are malicious. Here we have extortion, or sometimes called sextortion scams. This is where you receive an email and it threatens the release of compromising pictures. They say that they've hacked your computer, they've turned on the webcam while you're having a shower, they've recorded pictures and videos, and they're going to release it if you don't pay money. So it's not phishing. They're not trying to get information out of you or trick you into anything. They're not spam. It's not a commercial email, but it is an email scam that's coming through here. This is an exact screenshot of part of one of them. I attached a Trojan to the website with porno that you have viewed, captured all your private data, then switched your camera on, recorded. I will erase the compromising videos if you transfer $900 in Bitcoin. Very common, straightforward. The important thing to remember about scams is that every day there are thousands of people receiving a type of scam for the very first time. If you've never seen this before, then great. I'm telling you about it so you're prepared. But think about people that are using computers and networks for the first time. Think of children that are growing up and they may have used the web for a little bit and they're getting to an age where they get their own email address and they're going to get these scams. Every day, some people for the very first time are going to get this scam, think that is real, and be absolutely freaked out about it and not know what to do. And what's going to happen? They could lose $900 because they are sending the money off in the scam. Same thing with Nigerian scams. Oh, I'm the Prince of Nigeria. I wish to, move millions of dollars and I need your help. We laugh, but that's because we've seen it so many times. Take it from the perspective of a 13-year-old child that's getting that email for the very first time, had never heard anything about it, and goes, oh, I could make millions of dollars off of this. How great would that be? Boom. Horrible. It's a horrible thing. And bootstrapping information for these scams is very important to advise people and let them know. Next one for an email threat is the email account can be compromised itself. This is taking over, a criminal or attacker getting access to your account, and they're going to do it usually by stealing a username and password, sometimes by stealing a session cookie. If they've compromised your computer, they can steal sessions from you logged in, and even if you have two-factor, boom, they can steal the cookies and gain access to your email account. However they get in, once it's compromised, they can use your account for a whole number of things. One of it is sending spam or phishing emails to your contacts. And this is the best one from the perspective of a criminal. This is the best one because it's coming from a legitimate account. So it's not going to get flagged as spam as easily because they're not spoofing, they're not forging, they're not sending from other mail servers, they're sending it from the actual email account. And if it goes to your contacts, these are people you know. So these could be the, what do they call it? The mugged in London scam. Has anyone heard of that one? It's like, oh, I had to travel to London at the last minute and somebody mugged me and I've lost my phone and I've lost my wallet and my passport and I need some money so that I can get back home again. Sounds convincing. And if it's coming from your email and it's going to your contacts, can be very convincing. So that's a lot of these things of what they're used. Attackers can also enable email forwarding. So this is where any email that comes into the inbox, a copy of it is sent to a totally separate third-party address. Could be on a totally different system. If it's a hacked Gmail account, it can be sent off to Russian Yandex or Proton Mail or anything like that. They can also enable POP and IMAP access to have remote access to your email inbox, even without logging in to the Gmail interface directly itself. They can also do this in ways that bypasses two-factor authentication. So even if the user who had a hacked email account, even if they come back in, they change the password, they reset their two-factor authentication, the attacker could still have POP or IMAP access, or they could still have email forwarding. So even after you've changed your password and reset your 2FA, they're still getting copies of every email that comes back into your inbox. Scary, scary things. Very common though. Next email threat, business email compromise. So now we're moving from hacked individual mailboxes, we're moving up to business compromises. Now these compromises can be done just via email communication. It doesn't have to be a compromise in the sense of a hacked account compromise, but really interesting. So this is targeting businesses, as by the name, usually to trick employees into transferring money. Because who has more money? An individual person or a big business? Big business, absolutely. So where are the criminals going to go? They're going to go where the money is. This was the joke, decades ago of why do you rob a bank? Because that's where the money is. Well, now where's the money? The companies. Absolutely. Common targets. They usually email an individual. They send just a plain email, usually plain text and everything, but they're posing or pretending to be someone with authority. They might pretend to be the CEO of a company, and they specifically target the assistants, the personal assistants or the executive assistants, and they'll say, hey, I'm in a meeting. I need you to buy some gift cards for me. Do that, go on. They might target accounts receivable people, and they might get a vendor invoice with new bank details, and they'll actually change just the bank details. It will look like a real invoice, and it'll look like real services, but when accounts receivable goes through and they need to go and do the payments, it'll go through and do it that way. Human resources might get an email pretending to be from an employee and saying, "Oh, I'm just updating you. I have new bank account details for my salary to be paid into." And if they don't verify it, then slowly the salary is going to drip feed into the criminal's account. It can also start from malware infecting an employee's computer and then taking over the computer and the email account that it then has access to there as well. And it can go through, they can read old billing, they can read old invoices, they can get more information to make their scams and make their attack more believable. Because what's more believable than getting a real invoice and changing the banking details on it? Here's some examples that I was talking about. Blondine, are you at your desk at the moment? I'll be going into a meeting with limited phone calls. How close are you to a store? I have a task for you to handle. So what do you think they're going to get them to do? Buy gift cards. It's the classic gift card scam. This is an interesting one. So you can see that the name here is Duncan McIntosh. At the time, Duncan was the CEO of the APNIC Foundation, and Blondine was another employee in the APNIC Foundation. Not technically assistant, but sort of assistant sort of thing. They get this information from LinkedIn. Really interesting. There have been people that have updated their employee details on LinkedIn, and within an hour, they are starting to get scam emails trying to be tailored to that new employer that they're working for. So yeah, criminals are absolutely using LinkedIn to understand hierarchy and connections within the workplace. So that was a good one, but you can see here, of course, the from address has nothing to do with APNIC. And the reason why is because they need Blondine to reply, and they need the reply email to go to someone. They need to go back and forth. So this isn't spoofing the email address, but it is changing the name to be somebody else. Another one that we have here. Here we have Duncan being being spoofed again because as a title is like CEO of APNIC Foundation. To Sylvia, again, another APNIC employee. Planning a surprise for some of the staffs with gifts. Need you to purchase done. Get a purchase done. Email me once you get this. Same sort of thing. It's trying to keep the communication within email, and it's trying to give a sense of urgency and back and forth. That said, for this one, this was really interesting. This is an actual screenshot from Sylvia's mobile phone. It doesn't show the email address by default. A lot of the mobile readers for email don't do that. But when you actually go through and you click on Duncan, you can see here that it's using a different email address. So this one you can see is ceooffice15 at AOL.com. So this one was exec B, but this one you can see, CEO Office 15, they're trying to be a little bit more real. Really funny that they're using AOL though, but yeah. Still existed at the time. So these are real messages. And again, these aren't just real ones from somewhere else. When I was working at APNIC, these were real ones that were coming into APNIC and targeting APNIC. Interpol, obviously, and all of the police forces are very interested in business email compromise because it can be such large losses. I'll look at that later. But they break it down, illegal access into accounts, social engineering that we just saw, and tied to the social engineering is urgent requests. Urgent requests, I'm about to get on a flight. I won't be able to communicate. I'm going into a meeting. I can't take phone calls. I need you to do something. Email me back. It's always that. So, of course, one of the biggest counters for this is training your staff and training your employees and training your family and friends to use other methods to verify. Sending a text message, going to WhatsApp, going to out-of-band communication that isn't directly from the email to confirm that the person is who they say they are. Talking about where all the big money is. So if we go back 2013 to 2024, so we're looking at 11, 12 years here, the United States FBI, their complaint center recorded 158,000 US victims, totaling, what do we got here? $20 billion US. So overall in aggregate, that is a huge amount of money. Verizon's data breach report going back in 2023 that the median loss for business email compromise was $50,000. And going back to 2020, most of the losses were between $250 and $1 million. That's a huge number there. If we go to Australia, 2022 to 23, the Australian Cybersecurity Centre received BEC reports totaling $80 million Australian, with an average of $39,000 per incident. This is big money. Depending upon the size of the organization, it may not be too much to them, but it's still big money to the criminals. And that's why they're going to keep doing this. If they can be making an average of $39,000 for each successful attack, yeah, of course they're going to keep going after it. Some bigger individual companies here. Twitter was compromised with a mix of social engineering phone calls and credential stealing websites. Toyota had a parts supplier hit with a $37 million email scam. So that's BEC right there. A Belgian bank lost 70 million euros to BEC scammers. Ubiquity Networks, the Wi-Fi access points and that, they lost $39 million to CEO fraud. And by CEO fraud, the CEO didn't commit fraud. It was business email compromise pretending to be the CEO, just to clarify that. And of course, another one, fake invoices to companies like Google and Facebook made them lose over $120 million. These were so simple. Now, this is going back a few years. So hopefully they have processes in place to stop it. But these were as simple as just a fake invoice. Hi, air conditioning maintenance, pay me $1,000. And they did it at low enough amounts that the accounts payable team would go, oh yeah, sounds legit, $1,000. And it's like, so all you have to do is go to Google and ask for money and they'll give you money? So that's essentially what happened. Again and again and again, up to $120 million. It's mind-blowing to think about it. It's like, yeah. Don't be a criminal though. No. Going to jail, being bad morals and ethics is not worth it. But wow. Okay. So going into specifically on phishing. Oops. Specifically on phishing. Phishing, usually on its own, is sending a large number of emails with little to no customization. This is the shotgun approach of just phishing to a mass audience. This, of course, leads to spear phishing. Spear phishing is where they do targeted emails. They know the business, they know the person, they personalize the email messages a bit more. With automation, you can turn phishing into spear phishing quite easily. Grabbing email addresses and personalizing it. There's good spear phishing where it actually uses your name, and there's bad spear phishing where instead of your name, it's like dear Jamie at apnic.net. So they use your email address as your name, which isn't very personalized. But they will pull out things, name, title. There's ones that actually will automatically grab the domain name, find the company's logo, and include the logo into the email to make it look more legitimate. Phone numbers and things like that. And this is important. This is not just information off of LinkedIn, although a lot of information has been leaked off of LinkedIn. But any of the data breaches that you see, the data breaches aren't just username and password. A lot of it is personal information that can be used for better spear phishing email messages. So things to be thinking about here as well. Your information is out there from a number of things. Even if you don't use LinkedIn, it could be out there a lot. There's another part of phishing called whaling. This is going off of a few different industries, but casinos is a big one. If anybody has watched Ocean's 11, 12, 13, whenever they talk about the big casinos, the big bettors, the people with a lot of money to gamble, they call them the whales because they're the big fish. Same thing here for email phishing. Whales are the big fish. If you're sending spear phishing messages going after senior executives or directly to the people in the accounts finance department with the money, that's considered whaling, is going after those big people. Another type of phishing, here we have vishing. I personally don't enjoy all of these different names, but we'll go with it. So the V in front stands for voice phishing. This can be voice calls or voicemail calls, using phone calls to trick people to hand over their information, or do any other things. This has been getting very dangerous lately because they can use a lot of the machine learning and AI algorithms to take a voice sample and change that to say whatever they want in your voice. So this is one of the tricky things that, you know, you get big people that have their voice recorded in speeches and videos and stuff, very easy to capture that. My voice through here, this is being recorded. This is going to go up on YouTube. Prime candidate. If they ever wanted to target me, they have hours of me talking in various training and YouTube videos that are up online, capture my voice sample, and then they can use that to go in and fake my voice to have me say anything. Contact my wife, say that I've been kidnapped, they need to pay money, blah, blah, blah. In reality, it's just a voice changer synthesizer. And of course, the voice can also redirect off to malicious websites, things that sound innocuous, but can actually have them download malware and infect their computers as well. Other types of phishing, we have smishing. Smishing is SMS phishing. So you take the SM at the beginning. This is where they're sending mobile text messages instead of email. In reality, it's not that much different, okay? But when you get down to the specifics of what it looks like, in your text messaging on a mobile phone, you have less information and less ability to manipulate it as when you're on a laptop or a desktop computer. You're on a laptop desktop, you can right click, you can select, you can copy paste, you can bring up websites like urlscan.io, you can drop in websites to there, you can do scans, you can do all these things really easily. On a mobile phone, it's difficult, and even legitimate companies are using these shortened URLs because on a mobile phone, they're limited on the number of characters and they want it to appear easier for people to click on. So companies are making it difficult. Mobile phone interfaces are making it difficult. And basically from here, they just want you to click on things really quickly and easily. There's less checking that can happen from here. Beyond that, it's largely like phishing. Takes each malicious website, steal your login credentials, credit card numbers, other sensitive information, things like that. So yeah, did you request a password reset for your Gmail account? Delete this message if you did. Otherwise, send cancel and the verification code we just sent you. So do you see what's happening here? There's no link, but what's happening? They've got somebody's username and password, but they don't have their two-factor. So what they're doing is they're going in, they're logging into somebody's account, username, password, and saying, send me an SMS code. But of course, it goes to the legitimate account holder's message. So they send this saying password reset. And if you get this, you go, I didn't reset my password. Oh, somebody's trying to hack into my account. Send cancel and the verification code. The verification code is from the real Google, and they're sending it back to the criminals. So basically, you're handing over your two-factor code, which is why SMS as a two-factor code is bad. It's phishing. It's phishable so easily like that. Other ones like this. iCloud ID, domain of id-apple.mobi. I don't know if that's legitimate or not. It's got Apple in the name. Maybe I'll click on it. Another one here, package stopped by Australia Post. These package notifications, very popular email and text messages. And here you can see that the domain, they didn't even try and do anything different. It's ekp.dog. Like that's not real. This is one where they did use a domain name that tried to look more real. Here you have http ib.nab.com.au .nab-professional.com. So if you only read the beginning up to here, that is the actual banking website for the National Australia Bank, NAB. IB is Internet Banking, NAB, National Australia Bank. So that's real, but then it continues .nab.professional.com. So if people just verify the beginning of a domain name and they don't understand how domain names work, they might go, well, it looks like NAB, click. And then, of course, once they're on the website looks exactly, it's an identical clone of the banking website to steal the username and password to log in.
Username and password.
Yeah.
This is your username and password.
Yep.
And we already transferred 2 million something like money to your account. So
yep.
Just log into the account and transfer it to your personal account.
Yep.
So they are same me. So finally, as I thought that this comes from something like Bitcoin, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I know some of my friend, he is just doing business with the Bitcoin. So I sent this message to my friend. So what is it?
Yeah.
So he just tell me that this is impossible. Nobody can. It's not real.
Yes.
Send me the username and password.
Yep.
Okay,
It's a lot of those scam messages where they're trying to get you excited that something bad has happened and you need to stop it. So sometimes you'll get a fake invoice. Oh, thank you for renewing your McAfee subscription for $600 US. No, I don't want McAfee. And definitely not for $600 US. Same thing. Yeah. Thank you for your purchase of $2 million of Bitcoin. If you have any questions, contact support. So everything looks legitimate. And they just sort of put in a phone number or something there. And the phone numbers, they will do it offline. It doesn't have to be links to websites. It can be a phone number. And then they say, oh, we just need to verify your details. And oh, we need your credit card number to refund back. So by that time, you're convinced that they are real. You give over your credit card number. They don't do the refund. They then purchase things off your credit card and steal money.
I just logged into my Kali machine and browse there was my personal research VM.
Yeah.
So there is not harmful with my actual machine.
Yeah.
So I just visit that website and log into it, and I saw that that money is showing there, but they are asking my personal account number to transfer.
Exactly.
So this is exactly,
yeah.
This is exactly the scam.
They
try to grab my personal information.
Yep. They will look very convincing. There are scams that are so convincing you'd never even suspect it. A bit separate on a tangent here from phishing and email. There are scams of like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency where they say, oh, come here and if you buy $100 of Bitcoin, we will give you a bonus $100. And you think, wow, free money? I'm up for free money. So you log into their site and it looks real and you buy the money and you see it appear and you see that they've doubled your money. And you can go through and you can transfer it, you can convert it to Bitcoin or Ethereum or all of these different things, and everything looks real, but you can never cash out. And the thing is, it will show you as the price of Bitcoin changes, it'll show you your money changing. It's a full website that looks real on this way, but you can never cash out. So this could be months down the track that you've been putting in money to this site. You've been getting these bonus amounts. You think that you're getting Bitcoin investments and that you're earning money off of the cryptos. But as soon as you try and withdraw, error, problems, contact your bank, things like that. So, for somebody who's actually investing, it could even be years down the track that they realize that, oh, I can't get my money out. Yeah, the scams online can be incredible. Absolutely. So recognizing phishing emails specifically here, they typically will have a sense of urgency. And this too is to engage your short thinking brain. You've got your analytical brain, but using your analytical part of your brain takes energy, takes time, to really go through and think. But your quick responses, if I were to throw something at you, it's the quick acting part of your brain that puts up your hand to catch, right? So you get senses of urgency. You go, oh, you've just bought, thank you for buying $2 million in Bitcoin. Thank you for purchasing your McAfee renewal or things like that. It's wanting that quick response of, oh, I didn't do that. How do I respond to this sort of thing? Without taking time for looking at oddities, inconsistencies, or anything else. Phishing's message style. Phishing messages may not sound the same when they come from a legitimate sender. They may have different tonality. They may talk differently. Going back to those messages pretending to be Duncan, the CEO, that wasn't the way he wrote messages. You could tell it was a bit of an English as a second language, and it also wasn't the words that he would typically use for things. Work colleagues that might sound too casual, or friends that sound too formal. What's the difference? Why are they sounding differently here? And could this be a sign that it might be a suspicious message? There might be some languaging errors. There might be spelling and grammar errors. These are common signs of phishing emails. AI may help to remove these inconsistencies, but it's still a useful sign to look for. And I say it's still a useful sign to look for. This is interesting. And there's been a little bit of research into this, but it's hard to get conclusive because it's hard to contact the scammers to find out why they're doing certain things. But one theory is that if they send out a phishing email that has spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, smart people will look at that and go, scam, phishing, report, delete, and they move on. But the people that aren't as smart, and I say smart in general, they're not as observant, or they're not engaging their analytical brain. But if they're not as smart, they might fall for the scam. They don't want smart people, because smart people, when you get to the point of actually handing over money, you'll probably say, oh, this doesn't sound right. And then they'll stop at that point. They don't want that to happen. They want to target people that are easy to convince and easy to scam. So if they have in a little bit of grammar and a little bit of spelling mistakes, yes, it might get through spam filters, but it also gets through the brain filter of their victims. So something to think about is that, yes, AI can generate picture perfect email messages, but smart people may still not fall for them. So, what's the benefit here? More people may investigate and report them and get them blocked. Unusual requests, email that might ask you to do actions that are out of the ordinary, such as, going off and buying gift cards when that's not normal. The way to do this, of course, is use good, well-known communication channels. Previous organizations, you might use Slack or Google Teams, might have WhatsApp that already has been in communication. Use those instead of email to confirm who they are. Also look for inconsistent addresses. Look for the from address. Make sure if it lines up. This can be tricky for non-technical people because domain names, you can add on the subdomains to make it look real, and they've got to read all the way through to the end. But it can still be interesting. As we saw, those AOL and rr.com email addresses, those are very different than what you would expect from somebody working for APNIC. Some legitimate companies might use click tracking domains, and that makes it very tricky to determine whether it's real or not. You might get those legitimate emails from a company business, and when you click on it, it doesn't go directly to the company's website, it goes to click tracking that then redirects to the real site. So this can make it difficult for you to hover your mouse over links in an email to see where the message is going. It might go to an intermediate domain like that. And something else to look for is inconsistent logon pages. Previous companies I've worked for have used Okta as their authentication source, as their only authentication source. If you receive an email and you click on a link and it takes you to a Microsoft login page, well, hang on. That's not normal. We don't normally log in with Microsoft. We normally log in with Okta. And again, that's a typical scam. If it looks like a Microsoft login page, they'll steal your Microsoft credentials that way. And of course, combinations of attacks. Advanced phishing combines these different attacks. So you might start with a phone call phishing attack, asking you to perform an action that is coming later in an SMS text message, and then you follow the link on the SMS message that takes you to a website. So you absolutely can have these chains of attacks. From the criminal's point of view, it's not that much more difficult to set up, but if it's more convincing to the victim, they'll fall for it and they'll make more money from it. So for phishing emails, we've got a quick test that we can go through. You don't have to do both of these, but it would be interesting for you to load up one of these on your mobile phone right now. You don't have to complete it now, but load up the website and keep it there. Maybe at lunchtime, go through and see if you can actually spot the phishing messages. This can be a little bit easier if you do it on a laptop or desktop computer, but you should be able to go through and do it on a mobile phone. But yeah, these are two different ones. This is actually run by Google. The withgoogle.com is actually owned by Google. This one, it asks you to enter a name and email address. It's not to store and use it for other purposes. It's purely to customize the phishing emails. So you can give it a fake name and a fake email, but remember which fake email address you give it, because that's who you're pretending to be. So if you give it, test@example.com, when you see one of the phishing messages to test@example.com, remember that that's who you're pretending to be. But it's perfectly fine to put in your real details. They don't send you emails after this. It's purely for the purpose of the phishing test. And this one doesn't customize the phishing emails, but it brings up phishing emails and asking you to analyze them. So really interesting ones. These are also ones that you can then use to share with your colleagues and staff and friends and family and stuff like that, and get them to see, if they could pass a phishing test, and also do some learning along the way as well. Also, as a side note, I will be uploading these slides later tonight into the Orbit agenda for APAN. So if you want a PDF copies of these slides, come back into the agenda system for the APAN meeting later tonight or tomorrow, and you should see a link that you can download from the agenda item. This is another exercise. We don't have too much time to go into a lot of this, but something to think about is, how would you create a phishing email that would be, something that would trick people? Specifically, if you're to do it in your workplace or your friends. Is there any information that you could use and go, oh, well, we commonly get emails from HR or IT help desk at domain.com or something, or official emails usually have a company logo in it. These are things that criminals can find out as well. So think about what you would do to create a realistic phishing email, and criminals might be doing that in the near future as well for your companies. There's also phishing templates. If you ever wanted to go off and do phishing tests yourselves, you can just go into these websites, see what the templates look like, copy, paste, customize, and yeah, it's as easy as that. These are not for the purpose of criminals. These are if you're going to run a phishing campaign, test campaign within your organization itself. So moving on to email header analysis, how a lot of people think that email works. You send an email and it appears in somebody's inbox. Unfortunately, it's a little bit more complex underneath it all. This is dependent upon whether you're using a webmail interface or like a traditional Outlook that connects to a mail server. Taking the traditional separate mail app connecting to a server, you've got your mail client here, you send it through the company and it connects to your mail server to do the send, might be hosted on somebody else's network. From there, it queues up on the mail transaction server, goes through routers on the internet, might go through spam and virus blockers before receiving on the recipient's mail server. It will sit on the recipient's mail server until it is pulled or pushed into their mail client on a number of different things as well. Now, if they're using webmail, they're basically, this mail client is just a web browser that connects down and reads the mail from here. But there's a few hops along the way. And the interesting thing is that each little hop of where this email is going is leaving not just logs on the server, but it's adding on information to the email message itself. So when this person receives an email, it's going to have a log line from here, it's going to have a log line from here, and it's going to have a log line from here as well. When we talk about the servers themselves, they have logs that look something like this. This you can see is a postfix SMTP daemon, and you can see that the mail server itself receives a connection from an IP address. Client is that. You can see that it's trying to send a message with an ID. So it looks like an email address, but it's an ID number. You can then see who it's coming from. You can then see who it's trying to go to. And then you can see how the message is then being sent from one mail server off to the next. So from the mail server, you have logs that look like this. You see where the connections are coming from. You see the headers of the email, the to and from, and where it's going out from. And because these are IP addresses, you can't spoof this. This is a TCP connection to a server, and IP is the ground truth of what computer is connecting to another computer. Now, email headers are actually added on by each one of the mail servers as they go through. The headers are part of the email. You just don't see them by normal user interfaces. So they're added on top for each server that they go through, and they look something like this. So you can see down at the bottom is the original header. Now, this is what we're used to seeing in most mail clients. To, from, date, subject. Okay, so this is what you see. Anything beyond here is usually hidden because it's not for human consumption. It's for troubleshooting and debugging and things like that. So here you can see it was received by localhost. It was then received from one server from another server, received from one server from another server, received from one server to another server, received from one server to another server, one server to another, one to another. Now, this is because we're talking about large organizations. If anybody recognizes the 1E100.net, does anybody know who that is? Google. Because Google is named after a Google, and a Google is a number with 100 digits behind it. So 1 to the exponent of 100 is good. Ah, there you go. Now you know what Google's mail servers look like. It's not secret information, but yeah. At Google, they obviously don't have one mail server, right? So when mail goes through, it goes through a couple different routing and checking servers along the way. That's why you're seeing a few of these lines. It's not just sender server, receiver server. There's a few other ones along the way. And large companies can be like this, the Microsofts and Googles and Amazons of the world as well. But here you can follow and you can see IP address to IP address, IPv4s, IPv6s, mixes, and however they're communicating back and forth and through it. So you can follow the path, absolutely, but you can follow it down to where was the first message. So here you can see it was localhost because they're sending it from their local computer. But the next one from that, you see this IP address. This is the sender mail server. So where is the extra logging information? It's going to be on that server. If you ever needed to do deeper forensics and investigations into it, you contact that company and say, hey, message of this ID went through your mail server on this date and this time. Can I have some logs from your server? Because they'll have more information than just the email headers. Reading this is tricky because some other things that can happen is this more happened years ago, but it can still happen today. You can have the attackers injecting extra lines along here to try and confuse you into seeing, well, what is real and what is fake. So reading these and understanding what is legitimate and what could be forged can be a little bit tricky. Oh, here's a little bit of highlighting to make it easy to spot the important information. Again, if you're just viewing this in a regular text viewer, it takes a while to analyze this information. Luckily, we have websites that can help you with this. There are websites, there's many of them out there, but there's these three that I personally like, but you're free to use any others. These three, you take your email headers, select it all, copy and paste, drop it into there, and it will automatically go through and analyze and say, oh, it went from this server to this server to this server. So instead of looking at complicated garbage like this, it makes it a lot easier to look at. Additionally, if you don't know how to access your mail headers, go to this website, and for every single email client and website on the face of the planet that they've ever documented, it will tell you how to go in and view it. If it's Gmail, you just go up in the top right-hand corner, click on 3 dots, I think it is, and go to View Original or View Raw Message. If it's Microsoft Outlook, you have like the physical, not physical, but the independent client, not their web interface. You've got to go through this complex thing, and the headers are totally separate to the email. This will walk you through it. The web interfaces are usually straightforward, but they're not usually visible by the users because it doesn't have any useful information to a user. It's more for the IT people. But yeah, this website tells you how to access them. Copy and paste it into any of these websites, and it will analyze them for you. There we go. How's that? So, any questions on anything I've covered up until this point? Yes, sir. Give you an extra microphone.
As you said,
Oh, there might, is it muted? There we go. There we go.
as you said, a spammer can manipulate the header.
Yes.
How can I know by seeing the header it is manipulated or not?
Yep. So it can be a little bit tricky. One of the ways to look at it is that the person who is sending the message, the information is always at the bottom of the header. And as it moves from one server to another, it gets added on along here. So if you assume that the origin is faked, like this could be spoofed and forged for the from address, the first received lines could also be fake. So the best way to do it is to go from the top and work your way to here don't make sense. So when you work backwards, the ones at the bottom are the least trustworthy. In this example, this is all real. You know, this starting off with localhost and then going up to the first server, which is the rsgsv.net, that is real. That is their first server. And you can tell that because from here, you can see that it's received by from one to the next. So if you actually contacted this mail server and got logs from it, it would have a connection from this IP address to this server's IP address from there. It does take a bit of work. Forging email headers hasn't been as popular lately because they're just sending out mass emails as much as possible, or they're using legitimate email accounts to do the sending. But yeah, the lowest received lines.
Because they need the reply.
Exactly. So the lowest ones would be the ones that are least trustworthy. But yeah, analyze from your way down and back. And the websites that I have here can help you with analyzing to see which server talks to which server and how it trends versus. Yep.
Thank you for your last presentation.
Oh, I'm only halfway done. But yes, keep going.
I have a question. How often does spam become the initial entry point for more serious threats like phishing or malware?
And some other concern like related to common email threats. I have concern, why does email forwarding remains risk even after multi-factor authentication is enabled?
Yep.
And regarding smashing, why is smashing harder to detect on mobile devices?
Yep.
And the last one, related to recognizing language, as you already said, if we use AI improving language quality, what will be the most reliable phishing indicator then?
Yep. Okay. So you might have to repeat a couple questions as we go through. So the first ones, so spam and phishing email threats as an entry point into networks and individual, very common. Absolutely very common. Spotting and blocking spam is difficult because you have false positives, but you also have false negatives. If you filter too much spam, you might block some real email, and that annoys people. So the amount of filtering is a very delicate balance. You don't want too many real emails going into the spam folder, or the user is going to be annoyed and turn things off. And if you don't filter enough messages, some spam is left in. So it's very difficult. Also, the way that we filter on spam is based on current knowledge. But if the attackers develop a new way of disguising email messages or disguising links, the spam filters may not have caught up to them just yet. So that is another way that it can be tricky. And that's why spam and phishing is a very common entry point into networks. Additionally, a phishing email can have a link that goes off to a totally separate website. And that totally separate website might capture usernames, passwords, and have very little control over it. Or the phishing email might not have any links at all, and it's just asking you to go buy some gift cards. How do you prevent an email that's asking you to go buy gift cards? Because what if I legitimately asked you to go buy some gift cards for me? How do you block that? So yeah, email is a very difficult thing to fully filter and secure for coming in. So it's a huge vector for threats coming into organizations and personal accounts. Okay, what was your second question on that one?
Why does email forwarding remain risk even after multi-factor authentication is enabled? Because I have experienced this problem. My email was hacked.
Yes. Okay. So if you have a Gmail account and I hack your Gmail account and I put in email forwarding, your Gmail account is actually a Google account. So Gmail is a service run by Google. So is Google Drive, Google Photos, Google Wallet. All of that is protected by your Google account. Your Google account gets compromised with username and password, right? But your Gmail has its own configuration settings. Gmail has a configuration setting of forwarding email, that every message that comes in automatically gets sent to another address. When you go to your Google account, your bigger settings, you change your password, you turn on two-factor authentication, you log out existing sessions, you do all of these things, your Gmail settings haven't been changed because the Google account security is different to Gmail configuration. So even if you change your username and password, you change your two-factor, every email that you receive is forwarded to the criminal's inbox. So now the criminal still has access to your email, right? But only to incoming messages. So they go to your PayPal account or they go to your Amazon account and they say, I forgot my password. Send me an email reset link. Amazon sends you an email reset link to your email, and a copy of that is forwarded to the criminal. If they catch it before you catch it, they can reset your Amazon password because they've received the email. Make sense? So, it depends on your definition of man-in-the-middle attack. It's you could say it is. You're basically the attacker is maliciously configuring Gmail for Gmail to be the man in the middle. because Gmail is doing the forwarding, right? So you could say that the attacker, by changing configuration of Gmail with the forwarding address, they have turned Gmail to be the man in the middle. Yeah. And getting a copy from it like that. So yeah, it's a tricky one to define. So yeah, so the email forwarding, bad. The worst is the POP and IMAP, because through IMAP, you can delete the message as well. So the criminal could know where you're located, know when you're sleeping, sort of like Santa Claus, know when you're awake, know when you're sleeping, and they can go in and they can request the Amazon password reset when you're asleep, get the password reset your Amazon password, and then delete the email so that you never even see that Amazon sent you a password reset email and you wouldn't even know it existed. Suddenly your Amazon account is compromised and you've got no idea why. Did they hack my Amazon? No, they were using your email to do it. Scary, hey. Okay, what was your third question? Yes, so smishing on a mobile device. So let me go back to... Oh, can I have my screen up, please? Okay. So this is a website that I absolutely love, urlscan.io. If you've never heard of it before, highly recommend it. This isn't in my slides, so grab a picture, write it down, urlscan.io. Where's my mouse? I'll even bring it up bigger for you there. So urlscan.io lets you take a website address, paste it into there, and from their servers, they will connect to the website, load the website and any redirects that might happen, and give you a screenshot picture of what the website looks like. So you can see if www.amazon.something else is redirecting you off, www.amazon-com.evil.com or something like that. You'll see the redirects, you'll see where it goes to, and you'll see the information about it. It also has some rankings to say whether things were malicious or not. You can also, you can do public searching here so other people can see what you're doing searching and crawling for, or you can hide it. But I don't know if any of these are specifically malicious. Oh. Let's try that one. We'll find someone else's search. So this was a website here. You can see that the submitted URL was stsstores99.com. The effective URL is the final address that it ends up on. So here, there was no redirects. You go to one website and it loads that website. But sometimes you might have like tiny URL that does a redirect to another address. You'll see that here. Tiny URL will appear here and the final address will appear here. From there, you can see it brings up a screenshot. So here you can see what the website is going to look like, but you yourself have never accessed it. If it tries to download viruses or whatever, it's not going to touch you because this is all happening on URL scan servers, not on your computer itself. So this makes it much safer for you to test out a website to see what's going to happen on the other side of it. There are some tricks that criminals can use to hide themselves on things like this, such as looking for the client string to see if you're coming from a mobile device. If they're sending you a message by SMS, they're expecting a mobile device to be accessing their website, right? So what you can do is when you go through and you do your scanning here, you can actually go to options and you can first off choose where, like URL scan has servers all around the world. So you can originate your scan from a country, your country or a nearby country first off. Next is you can change the user agent. So you can make it look like, so if you're doing something, say it was an SMS message, so it's expecting you to be coming from a mobile device, you can go through here and you can say, I want to pretend that it's a Chrome on Android. So, it's a little bit trickier that if you're testing something specifically that you think is looking for mobile devices, you've got to go into options. You've got to choose that. If you want it to appear from a country nearby, you got Singapore in here, Japan, an Asian country. Or if you think it's targeting you from America, you could go through and choose the US or something like that as well. You can also put in a custom user agent. Another tricky one is sometimes when you're doing a Google search, you'll see some website results that if you click on a Google result, it takes you to the scam website. But if you ever went to that website directly, you'd see something different. You'd see a legitimate site, and they know that you're coming from Google. So you might have to put in an HTTP refer to say, oh yeah, I'm coming from a Google search. So HTTPS, google.com, making it much more complex. Now, me doing this on my laptop, really easy. If you needed to go through and use URL scan from an email message, you can't copy just a URL in the message. So let's go back to some real examples here. Where are my messages? So here we go. So at least on my Android phone, if I got a message like this, I could tap and hold and get an option to copy, but it copies the whole message. So then I've got to then copy the message, go out into a browser, open up urlscan.io. As a technical person, I know about that. Paste that in, but then I've got to remove the other text from the message to just the URL, change the options and things like that, and then submit it and do a check. That's harder to do from a mobile phone. Whereas what they want you to do is just click on it. On a desktop, it's a lot easier. You can hover over URLs to see if they're changing things around, right? You can do all these things that are easy on a desktop or a laptop computer from a mobile, from a browser, a full browser. On a mobile phone, much more difficult to do that. It's possible though. As I said, tap, hold, copy, go to URL scan, paste it in there, delete the text that isn't the URL, configure the scan and run the scan, but it's harder. And then you have to deal with the mobile interface of URL scan. It gives you a lot of information because there's technical analysis and stuff like that. It just makes it that little bit trickier to do. And that's why a lot of criminals will be using SMS messages in order to go through and do that. Let me find another one here. I don't know if that's real or not. Let's see. So down in here, you can see other information. So you can see Google Safe Browsing says that Google hasn't detected that this is malicious. There's other information. If other people have gone into URL scan and said, oh, this is a scam, this will turn up with saying that there is a report that it's bad. And if it was redirected, you'd see, it's not showing it because there's no redirects, but somewhere around here, you'll see a redirects of one site to the other. Like if it was a URL shortener, tiny URL or something, you'd see that redirect, and then you'd get down to the malicious stuff. But yeah, interesting stuff. There we are. So what was your last question, sir? Yes.
The most reliable phishing indicator.
It depends on the phishing message. So for example, if it's a phishing email that they need you to reply, it's going to be looking at the from address. And the thing is, a lot of email clients don't display the from address. They display the name, but not the address. And the other thing is that even as they display the name, some criminals will actually have the name as Bob Jones, bob@jones.com. And it looks like the email address, but it's not the email address. That email address is inside of the quotes of the name field to trick you. Basically, looking at the email is the very first one. Looking to see if there's any indications of urgency. As soon as you see something that's urgent, you have to have a short circuit in your brain. You have to have a disconnect that says, if something is urgent, it's no longer urgent. If it's urgent in the email, I have to stop. I have to engage my analytical, slow-thinking brain and go through and actually read it line by line and analyze links, analyze where it's coming from and going from that. The biggest one, I think, coming from an IT education background, the biggest one is education. But education is a losing battle because people are being born, babies are being born every day. You know, right now, hospitals nearby, babies are being born. And how do you educate babies? When do you educate babies? How do you educate babies? It's difficult. Like it would be great if we could get education into the primary school system, but at what age? Or maybe all the ages, but now you're having to move out other curriculum. You know, like the teachers have a full day to teach every day. Math, science, languages, you know, geography, history. Where do you teach internet safety and privacy? Something will have to move, and that's difficult. It's very tricky. But yeah, there's the little bits of where do you view, but to understand that is the education piece. So at the bare minimum, I'm a big fan of any organization that hires people day one, even before they have a username and password, even before they touch a computer, they get a safety and security presentation in front of them. That's how it was when I was at Google. Google would do all of the new staff inductions on a Monday, and you would have human resources would meet you first. They would talk a little bit about finances and bank accounts and how to do that. And then you'd have the IT safety and security team doing a presentation. After the IT safety and security, you would then go to the IT help desk. You'd be issued your laptop and you'd set up your username and password. And you would be setting up your password with the knowledge of how to create a good password, because immediately before that, you had the IT safety and security presentation. Big fan. But then also getting into the schools. I myself have done cyber-safe online presentations for the local schools and that. But that was only for a couple of years. So, you know, what about the years that I don't do that presentation? It's tricky. It's difficult, but education getting in there. And then again, you've got a captive audience within a company or within an organization where you can do updated messaging. Hey, we've seen these new spam messages. We've seen these scams come through. Be aware of this. And to do that little bit of a drip feed of education along the way to keep people thinking about it. Have some posters up on the wall, things like that. October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Do a big thing in October as well, but every month do a little drip feed of information. There's technical layers, but in the end, technical layers have some faults. And when something gets through, it's going to land to the human. And you have to have good human firewalls. And that's hard. So there's no perfect answer, but you know, hopefully that gives you a little bit of information. No worries. Where did I end up with? Okay. Is there any other questions on anything that I've covered up to this point? I do have a little bit more. Yep. Do we have another microphone? Oh yeah, here we go. And if it's pushed up, if it's not already. It might be okay.
No.
Oh, okay. You can use mine.
Is the attacker can send payload with the email? I don't. If I don't open that email, it can attack me with a payload like keylogger?
That's a very good question. So I've been in IT for 30-ish years, right? When I started, it was well known you can't get a virus from email. It would have to be an attachment. You can't get a virus from email. 2 years later, there was a vulnerability. We were using Pegasus email client. Does it still exist? Or do you just know it from a long time ago? Okay. Pegasus then had a vulnerability. And now, if you sent a specially crafted email, it would execute a program and it would do something on your computer. So everything changed. Mind you, way back then, 30 years ago, we would update email signatures once a month. So this was a long time ago. So the interpretation and the execution of anything in an email is dependent upon the email client that you are using. Servers in the middle don't do anything. They'll scan it, and that's about it. I can go deeper, but I won't at the moment. But it depends on your email client. So for example, if I'm using Outlook as the independent client, so not web interface or anything like that, if there's a vulnerability in Outlook that allows execution of code, then yes, simply receiving an email or clicking on it to view the email, usually it would be click to view, that viewing process, it could execute code if you're not updating and as long as there's that vulnerability. So there's always that window of when a vulnerability is discovered before it's patched and fixed. So that window is that window of opportunity for criminals to do it. If you're using web interface, though, remember that web interface is different. The web interface is being viewed on the server and being displayed to you. Now, most vulnerabilities would be on the server side of things, which isn't impacting you. But if there was a vulnerability in your web browser, and there has been, if we go back to Internet Explorer days, IE5, IE6, bad, scary days of the internet, there were huge vulnerabilities. Huge, you could drive a car through these holes, sort of thing. And yes, you absolutely, just by viewing a web page, could get compromised. Just by clicking a link, you could get compromised, like full executing code on your computer, and it's horrible. So if you're using a dedicated mail client, it's about the security of that client. If you're using a webmail, there's the server side protects you from a lot, but there's still that little bit of browser vulnerabilities. But luckily, for large companies and large software, we are getting very frequent update cycles. It's now at the point where web browsers are auto-updating. Which is incredible. Like for people that are newer to IT, you might go, well, it's always been like that. No, it hasn't. Updating of web browsers used to be optional, whereas now it's there, it's done. You don't hit like by default, like you would have to go through major steps to turn off auto updates sort of thing. So there's always going to be that window, but it is small. So generally, by viewing an email, no, you shouldn't be exposed to executing of code unless you're in that tiny little window and it's being exploited. So yes, but no, but yes, but no, but yes, but it depends. So much of security is it depends. But yeah, so make sure you're using up-to-date software. Make sure you've got all the auto updates turned on. And the thing is, the pieces that could have the vulnerability could be something separate to the browser. It could be an operating system component of how it displays a certain image format type. And that display could be the thing that's being compromised. So not only do you have to keep your applications up to date, your web browser up to date, you have to keep the operating system up to date as well. And that's why using legitimate software that has the updates and everything is so important. And everything I said applies to these as well, which is the tricky, difficult part. My kids are turning 13 and 14. They've got mobile phones. I don't want to buy them brand new phones. I give them hand-me-downs, but I have to track At what point do their mobile phones no longer receive security updates? Because of all the people that I want to have constantly updated stuff is my children that haven't been exposed to all these scams, and they might just click on links and do weird things. I want the full security updates and no vulnerabilities. So yeah, look at your phones. Are you receiving security updates? This was another one at workplaces that I've been in the past, where if you were to access company email or any company accessing that on a BYOD device, it had to be a device that is still receiving security updates because of vulnerabilities that can allow for malicious code to come through. So yeah, there you go. It's complicated. It's complicated. And that's why security is a fairly secure career to be in, right?
Even the president, France, like those phone is hacked too by Pegasus.
Yeah. Yeah. Pegasus is a whole nother level, but yes. But yeah, WhatsApp has had vulnerabilities where viewing a message would do it. iPhones, going back a couple of years, iPhones had a vulnerability that even just receiving an SMS, specially crafted, not even viewing it, just receive it, boom, your phone would be compromised. Like, and then boom, Pegasus is installed. So yeah. But yeah, vulnerabilities in mobile phones that allow execution of code like that with 0-click are worth, I think some criminal enterprises are paying like $500,000 or $1 million US for those sorts of vulnerabilities because they're so powerful. So yeah, scary stuff.
Exploit frequencies.
Yes.
In that case, we need access list for mobile for receiving SMS as well.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, yeah.
You cannot protect SMS.
It is hard. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, staying up to date is the biggest thing. Absolutely. Okay, we've hit lunchtime. I do have a little bit more to finish up on this. I can finish up on this, then go to the next thing, which I think was DDoS, was it? Can you switch it back to my screen just for a second? I think I had, where's my URL scan? Oh, DNS security from client perspective. There we go. So back in this room, 1 hour from now, well, 56 minutes from now. So we'll be starting at 1:30, not 2 o'clock. Lunch goes to 1:30. We'll start back here at 1:30. I'm going to finish off. We're going to be discussing the server side of things of SPF, DMARC, DKIM, and then getting into DNS security from client perspective. Thank you very much for your questions. Great interaction here. I'll see you back here at 1:30, everyone.